anybody out there got anything that they'd like to ask us?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I was very interested that you started with Faith's story to begin with and then moved over to Jimmy. Was there a particular reason for that?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, it's a long story. I first wrote Jimmy's End. That was the first piece written, mainly because Mitch had said that he wanted to do a film just for his show. Really, thought we might use the same set and the same characters that we'd used for the burlesque shoot for Dodge and Logic, and included me and included Melinda, whose idea the burlesque thing was, and a couple of other people that Mitch wanted to involve, and he said, yeah, we'll just go down and we'll just shoot some footage down there. And I said, would you like a screenplay? Foolishly. And he said, well, couldn't hurt. And I thought, well, a 10-minute screenplay, I mean, how much trouble can that possibly be?
3.5 years later.
Yeah. So we wrote that one first. When we needed, at one point, this was supposed to be a film being premiered as an app. At that point, we were involved with Hewlett Packard.
Hewlett Packard were going to fund making the film and then turn it into an interactive thing. And then they brought out their tablet that was absolutely a piece of crap. And the reality was that as soon as the guys went away and tested it to see if the app would work, came back and said, you produced something that's rubbish. They stopped producing it and as such didn't give us any money.
And it was our project that made them realise that their technology was crap and they completely got out of the hardware business.
It's true.
I felt quite proud about that in many ways.
But it was at that point where we realised that we needed to get some traction. We had the screenplay, we were ready to go, but we didn't have the funding. So Alan said, well, why don't we write a trailer and we create Acts of Faith just as a trailer. And then Lex Records came up with the money for that. As soon as we'd made Act of Faith, all of a sudden everything started to tumble into place. Intel came on board via the Creators Project and they gave us the money to make Jimmy's End. So that's why it kind of worked out that way.
It was the last one that was actually written, but chronologically it is kind of the first in the sequence. The other 4 films kind of carry on from that, and it's not as if these are the only films in the story. I mean, we've already written, well, I say we, I've already written the screenplay for the feature film that follows on from this. And if that works out, then yeah, a couple of seasons of a TV series, something like that.
We're not ridiculously ambitious or anything, but you know, the reality is we're here, and we've made, you know, we've made 5 films without any editorial control with anyone else,
or sort of really any ability. Really, I mean, speaking for myself,
oh, no,
you know, it's sort of we just thought, you know, making a film that sounds easy, you know, and like I say, here we are. But any other questions?
Thank you. Congratulations. Middle way through Jimmy's End, I realized that this guy must be dead, this must be hell. Kind of felt like Dante's descent into hell. Is that part of what you were intending?
Well, that was what we hoped people would think at the end of Jimmy's End. There are a couple more films in this sequence which will be on the DVD package, but which we didn't show here. Basically, after Jimmy's End, all of the other films raise more and more questions about your initial hypothesis, which was the one that you were meant to have. That we figured that at the end of Jimmy's End, people are going to think, oh yeah, this is like God and the devil, and this is some kind of anti-room to the afterlife, which is a reasonable thing to think. But no, actually, it's something much worse than that. You know, like when they did Lost and they said, oh no, definitely the characters aren't all in purgatory. And then, like about 8 seasons later, they said, yeah, actually they're in purgatory. You know, with this, we wanted you to think that they're all in purgatory, and they're not. It just kind of gets worse from here on in, really. You know, so yeah, hope that we get the money for the feature film, because that explains a little bit more. Basically, the reason this is called Showpieces, it's partly to do with the idea of the show in a lot of senses, including the sense of the reveal. And basically, this whole series of films, it's a sequence of pull back and reveal. That the things that you first think, I mean, Act of Fate on its own would seem almost pointlessly cruel, unless there was a continuation of this character's narrative. Jimmy's End, at the end of that, you're led to think one thing. When you see the subsequent films, I mean, by the end of his heavy heart, it must be pretty clear that if this is God and the devil and the afterlife, it is certainly not a Christian one. So, yeah, that's basically the idea that you were supposed to have. Any other questions? Yes?
Hi, it's less of a technical question like the last two, but I'm just curious how long you spent in gold makeup getting ready.
Well, to be honest, darling, it was 3 or 4 hours in makeup, and I was frightening people on the streets of Northampton because I had to keep going out. We've got a kind of a trailer where I could go and have a smoke and everything, but that meant walking down the main street of Jimmy's End with all my hair up, and that is my real hair, incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, and the gold face makeup. And the thing is, it's Northampton.
But there was a wait taking place.
Oh, there was a wait when we would do it. That was good.
In the lounge bar next door to where we were shooting. So we've got Alan dressed like that, we've got the clown, and we've got our strippers wandering around, and just everyone having a wait, just looking out the window.
It was a bit inappropriate, actually. I mean, we had no idea that it was going to be a wait. But the thing is, like, in Northampton, they're not going to be that surprised at somebody with gold skin and a huge nuclear explosion of white hair walking down the street. I was being interviewed by somebody from the Creators Project on the steps of the club, and she was saying, so what is it that you find so interesting about Northampton? And as she was saying that, I was looking the other way down the street, and there was a giant puppet of Lady Godiva being pedalled through the streets by a cycling team, waving to people. And I sort of said, well, it's basically kind of things like that. There'll probably be another one along in 5 or 10 minutes. It's just Northampton. So, yeah, it was a while, and I tell you what, ladies, those false nails, I mean, you can't get them off, can you? They're just on for days.
He just didn't want to get them off. That's more to the point.
Well, all right, but yeah, I was rocking those nails.
There's a gentleman over there.
Yeah.
I thought I saw you put your hand.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I've got a question for both of you, one for each. For yourself, Alan, you've said in interviews before that in terms of comics, in terms of writing, the actors are all made of paper and they do exactly what you want. How did you find the experience going from writing comics to go to film?
Unnerving. Like Mitch, after I'd written all of these things before any of them had been made. The first one, as Mitch was saying, was Act of Faith. We made that as a sort of a bit of a spur to get the other ones made. And I'd written it all as I would do a comic. This character, this happens, something terrible happens to them. That's fine, because characters on paper, even though I even try to treat the characters on paper with respect. You do, because you've invested sort of life into them. However, when Mitch was saying, oh yeah, we're going to be shooting Act of Faith, it was quite a big event. We were getting to shoot one of these films, and he was saying, so do you want to come along and watch it? And I said, no, I'd really rather not, because I've met Siobhan, and she's a really nice woman, and I don't want her to be choking in know it's make believe, but I didn't want to think that I'd actually subjected a human being to that kind of situation. I mean, I've got a little harder about it now, you know. I mean, I was going along and watching Daryl screaming and pleading into his brutally cruel mouth gags. So I'm developing a kind of callous over my feelings, so that I'm soon going to be as ruthless and hard-hearted as any kind of Hollywood entrepreneur, you know. But yeah, it's a good point, though.
And sorry, my question with Mitch was that I noticed that there's quite a number of edits from the original short films that you put out, and that there's not the same amount of content. And what we've just seen is from the short films, and they were available online. I just wondered what influenced the edits that were made.
I'm unsure about that. I mean, how do you mean? All of the little moments that are out there at present?
Yeah, well, I mean, like for example, the scene between Netterton and Matchbright in the dressing room. That's a much longer film.
Yes, that is, but that was never intended to be part of the showpieces, and neither was upon reflection. We needed to put something together that had a linear feel to it, and I felt that it was more appropriate, certainly, because it came in at 1 hour 20, which was perfect for the film festivals. Because if you imagine, most other films will have a budget of X million or X 100,000, and then they'll have the equivalent in marketing spend. Unfortunately, we have no marketing spend. There is no money. So by using film festivals, that's a really good promotional tool for us. But I just felt that if we put the other two films within it, then it may have been a bit more confusing and it may not have flowed as well. But they are essential to the narrative and for understanding the character's development as we move along.
And certainly a professional relationship, which is Mr. Metterton and Mr. Matchbright in the dressing room bitching for about 10 minutes. That is very funny in a kind of an unpleasant way, but funny nonetheless. You know, so yeah, both of these are going to be on the collection.
They will be on the DVD. They are part of the showpieces, but just for expediency, I just felt that Acts of Faith, Jim's End, and His Heavy Heart was the way to go.
And this will fill in bits. I mean, like upon reflection, fills in what happens between the end of Act of Faith and the beginning of Jimmy's End. And yeah, professional relationship shows you what's going on in that little cutaway scene with Mr. Matchbright washing his hands, you know.
I was just wanting to ask, looking at the different films, Act of Faith filmed in an apartment, Act of Faith filmed on flats, Jimmy's End filmed in a working man's club, the final film, His Heavy Heart, in an abbey. It looked a little bit of a different setting and feel. Was it harder to film in that kind of location as opposed to the more comfortable ones you previously had?
Well, His Heavy Heart was a real pig to film in, to be honest. We had a point where we've got Candy, she's freezing, she's hospitalised after the filming process because she's so bloody cold, and it was terrible because we were filming in January. But I had a decision to make: do I have lighting or do I have heating? Because we didn't have a budget for a generator, we've got cables running from every power socket there is in the abbey, which is a fire hazard in itself, just to get enough lights into the basement to actually work. So we did have to make a decision, and the decision was it's lights. So no, it was an unpleasant place to film, but I think it kind of worked. I think Andy enjoyed the process really.
I'll get pneumonia again for it.
Well, I mean, like, one of the great things about these films that we're really enjoying, and that it's making it possible to make them, is that we've kind of made Northampton one of our leading ladies in many respects. There are an awful lot of strange buildings and strange people and just strange situations that grow out of a town like Northampton, and we've pretty much got access to all of them. So yeah, if we do want a 12
sorry, you've done some very good collaborations together, unearthing the live performance piece, and then also the really nice box set and the book, and now these films. Have you got any other performance pieces that you're going to work on together in the future?
Well, I mean, like, if all goes well, and people, we're hoping we'll see these short films that we did for a tiny, tiny amount of money in Hollywood terms, certainly. And I hope that they'll think, oh, if we actually gave these people a slightly larger amount of money, they might be able to turn out something that was quite spectacular. Basically, I mean, this is our only project, but it is open-ended to the point where, yeah, we'd like the feature film, which is called The Show, and then we'd like the potential TV series, which is called The Show. I just didn't fancy spending the time making up another title, you know.
No, but we are collaborating with Electric Comics, so, and we're trying to bring Electric Comics out into the real world, because it only originally existed just as something that the kids were reading in the feature film. But then we went out there and got funding to start looking at narrative in a digital space, so we've got Electric Comics. We're then working on the computer game, which is
Escapism. This is something that we built into the screenplay. We thought, right, we're going to come up with a kind of parallel world Northampton that is pretty much like the real Northampton, but not quite, with slightly altered details. And then we'll set up a kind of, having our imaginary Northampton, which doesn't exist anywhere but in the imagination, then we'll set up a kind of export business to actually export this stuff to the real world, because I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work. And indeed, this turns out to have happened with Electric Comics, which was a prop for one scene in the film, where I thought, let's make up a technology that doesn't actually exist yet, and have a kind of comics that don't exist actually sort of watchable on it. And yeah, now we've got this grant, we're about halfway through the process, it's looking great. Like Mitch says, we've got the stuff about this dangerous computer game called Escapism, which we've got lots of negative headlines about in newspapers in the feature film. So we want to make that real as well. And I even thought of an energy drink, didn't I? I thought of an energy drink called Fuel Rods, which is in a slightly thinner, taller can that is kind of Dayglow green and looks really toxic. And yeah, we've got approached by a kind of one of the energy drink companies saying, yeah, we'd like to make that. So this is the principle. You know, we just make stuff up, and then it will be real and on a street corner. Yeah. Was there a question over there? Oh, that's right.
Oh, and by the way, we are unearthing the live film comes out. It's taken 3 years to edit, and that comes out, I think, by the end of the year.
Is there any danger about the things coming from the screen into the real life? I mean, you've talked about the Northampton clown before now. I was watching Act of Faith here the second time. I hadn't realised the whole 70s authority figures being exposed by the newspapers.
Yeah, we were ahead of the curve there, weren't we?
Are you worried about anything else that might pop onto the screen?
Well, this is always the sort of, I mean, the thing with the Northampton clown, yeah, we've got this thing planned where we were going to get Andy Buckley, our 6'5", gigantic, frightening clown, manifesting in kind of little vignettes.
A film called Clowntown.
Yeah, a little short film called Clowntown. And then I got back from holiday, and I think my brother rang me up and said, yeah, so what's all this about the clown? And I said, what clown? And he was saying, look, there's been this clown that's turning up in... Mitch was getting emails saying, this is you and Alan, isn't it?
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. We love the clown.
Yeah, fantastic work, guys. You know. And so it turned out, I mean, not only was this clown nothing to do with us, this was a completely self-motivated clown. This was an independent clown. And, but actually, the first place where he was photographed was about like 15 paces from my front door. Turned out he lives down the other end of the road from me, but then, you know, people at the other end of my road, you know, they're not necessarily You know, my end of the road, that's great. You get lots of people that they're a bit eccentric down the other end. But yeah, you can never tell what's going to break free of your imagination. I mean, look at all that Occupy anarchy stuff. I mean, I've got no idea when I was writing that thing. You just write these things and hope that none of the really bad ones escape. You know, but I can't promise anything. You know, was there a question down there?
Looking at everything you've been saying, so you've got the computer game and the film and the TV series and the comics and the acting and the comedy and the comments about Nigel Farage, I think it's time you came clear and admitted that actually what this is all pointing towards is a career in politics. You know, making stuff up and making it real.
Yeah, no, I'm planning to circumvent all of that. I think that probably the best thing that I could do is to destroy politics first and then move in. Actually, the thing about Nigel Farage, or Noi, as we call it, we have actually got a scene. No, it's not even a scene, it's a background detail. This is the way that we do in this feature film. It's just all of these background details that most people will probably never notice. But there is a poster for a far-right British political party in the background that is called GBIP, the Great British Independence Party, and their slogan is "Gas the Intolerant." So after, apparently Nigel was quite upset about us overrunning on
Cultural minorities.
Cultural minority arts things sort of preventing him from getting his message across. So I think we might actually beef up the part of GBIP in the feature film. We're probably going to make them more of a feature now, you know. So I wouldn't want to be running this mess. I mean, as an anarchist, no, that couldn't possibly work, could it? But that is what I would say, isn't it?
Actually, guys, I think we need to head off now.
Is that correct? Is that so?
I think it is. We've got to get across the road.
Ever so sorry, but duty calls apparently. But thank you ever so much for coming. Thank you ever so much for supporting us.
And you've got to see it first. Thanks so much.